So in this video, we are going to solve the problem string compression. The problem statement is given an array of characters, compress it using the following algorithm. Begin with an empty string s for each group of consecutive repeating characters. If the group's length is 1, append the character to s. Otherwise, append the character followed by the group's length. The compressed string s should not be returned separately, but instead it must be stored in the input character array. Note that group lengths that are 10 or longer will be split into multiple characters in chars array. After you are done modifying the input array, return the new length of the array. Let us take a look at this example. This is the characters array. It has 2 occurrences of A, 2 occurrences of B, and 3 occurrences of C. So the output is 6. How is that calculated? The groups are 2 A's, 2 B's, and 3 C's. Now this is compressed to A followed by 2, which shows the occurrence of A character, then B followed by 2, which shows the occurrence of B character, and then C3. The length of this string is 6, which is returned as an output. So we want to devise an algorithm that will achieve this behavior given any input character array. How can we do that? The solution to this problem lies using the concept of 2 pointers. Using the concept of 2 pointers. So what we are going to do, since we have to update the characters array in place, so we will use 2 pointers, read pointer, and write pointer. Both these pointers will start from 0. Both these pointers will start from 0. Then we will have to compare the occurrences of character. For that, we will use a variable character to compare, which will be assigned to chars of read. Then we will have an outer loop. Which will run while read is less than characters.length. Now inside this outer loop, we need to count the occurrences of different characters. So we will initialize count to 0, and also this statement char to compare will be written over here. Since we are supposed to count the occurrences of a character, what I mean by that, in case of this chars array, initially read and write are pointing at location 0. So we have our outer loop which will run from read equal to 0 to read less than characters.length. That is, read will run from here to here. Then we are assigning the character to compare is equal to characters of read, which is A. Then after that, we are going to make use of an inner loop. So what that loop will do, that loop will count the occurrences. That loop will count the occurrences of the character to compare. That is, this loop will run from, and it will check that the chars of read, if it is equal to character to compare, then increment the read pointer, move the read pointer ahead, and also increment the count. Count. Once this inner loop executes successfully, once we come out of the inner loop, then now we know right pointer is still pointing at 0 and read pointer has moved to index 2. We are comparing our first example. So outside the inner loop, what we do? We initialize chars of right is equal to the character to compare, which is the A with, which is the A character. And after that, inside the assignment itself, we do right plus plus, that is we increment the right pointer to 1. Now the right pointer is pointing at 1. Here we are given the condition. The condition is if the group lengths that are 10 or longer, it will be split into multiple characters in chars. There's a simple trick to do that. How can that be done? Here we will compare if the count is greater than 1. If the count is greater than 1, so what we will do? We will convert the count. We will convert the count to a string array. Then iterate the array and update characters of right pointer. By doing this, we can efficiently solve the given problem of string compression. Let us check our pseudocode. With example 1. So here we have our chars array. So initially read and write both are pointing to A, and the char to compare is character A. So the outer loop starts, right? It starts from read and goes up to chars.length. Here we are saying the count is equal to 0. Now inside the outer loop, we have defined an inner loop which checks that read pointer must always be less than characters.length, and here the actual comparison logic happens. That is characters of read, if it is equal to character to compare, then we increment the read pointer and we also increment the count. In case of A, that becomes read will first be incremented to 1 and then it will be incremented to 2. So when read becomes 2, read is at index 2 and write is still at index 0. So scrolling down, what we do, then we update the chars array to the index where right pointer is pointing, and there we write the character to compare. So write is still here, we write A over here in the characters array. After writing, write moves to index 1. Then we check the count. If count is greater than 0, yes. Count is 1 and 2. Count is greater than 1. We convert the count to a string array. How we are going to do that? We will be seeing that in the code example. Then we iterate the array and update characters of right plus plus with the element of the array. And when the loop ends, since we have to return the updated string length, and updated string length is nothing but the value of your right pointer. So we return the right pointer. Now let us try to code this problem. Let me create a file. Our problem number is 443 string comparison. 443 string comparison.js. Here I'll add a function string comparison. I'll add a function string comparison. String comparison, which is a function that accepts the chars array, and inside this function first we will initialize our read and write pointer. So read is equal to 0 and write is equal to 0. Then we will define our outer loop. Then we will define our outer loop, which is while read is less than chars.length. Inside this, we will initialize the character to compare. The character to compare will be chars of read. Then we will set the count to be equal to 0. After that, we have inner loop to count the occurrences of a character. Here also we will use a while loop. This condition of read less than chars dot length is very important because it ensures that read pointer does not go out of bound. And then we check that chars of read is equal to char to compare. If that is the case, then increment the read pointer, and increment the count of occurrence of a character. After this, what we do, we write to the write pointer's location the character which we have counted right now, which is stored inside character to compare, and then we check if the count is greater. If the count is greater than 1, then const string count is equal to string pass in the count dot split. So this will return an array. For example, if count is 100, so the below line will return the output as 1, 0 and 0. Instead of string count, we will call this as count as string array. So since we have all the digits of count, we have to write those digits where the right pointer is pointing. So for const digit of digits, the chars of write plus plus is equal to digit. Once we have done that, so this is done. Then at last, when the loop ends, we return the value of write. So let us call this function string comparison const result is equal to string comparison, and we will pass in this example. So its output should be 6. So we are calling string comparison function. Then let us log that result. Console.log string. It was a string comparison. It is string compression. The string compression equal to result. Now let me run this file node 443. You expected there is an error. What is that error? Const digit of digits digits is not defined. Oh, my bad. You got it. Well, let me rename this as digits. Save this file. Clear the terminal. Run again. Here it is. String compression. The result is 6. Now, if we run the second example, which is the single characters array, which is a single character array. Let me run this. It should return 1. Here the output is 1. And after that we have this one. So it should return the output as 4. Let us try that as well. Saving this file. Here it is. String compression. The output is 4. So let me revise what we have done. The task was given to do string compression. Let me rename this string compression. So for doing that, we have used the method of 2 pointers, read and write. We scan the characters array or string starting from read, and it goes up till characters.length. Then we store the character to compare inside this variable and initialize the count to 0. Then we have an inner loop which will check the character to compare and accordingly increment the read and the count variable. After that, once the inner loop executes successfully, then we are writing the character to compare or the character which we have counted its occurrence to the location where the right pointer is pointing. Then after writing the character to compare at that location, we increment the right pointer. Then at last we do a check. If the count is greater than 1, we convert that count to a digits array, and then we iterate that digits array and write those digits inside the chars array in place. And at last, since the task is to return the length of the updated string in place, write is nothing but the location where our updated string ends or the length which we are supposed to return. So this is how you solve the problem of string compression successfully using 2 pointers. I hope you would have learned something valuable. If yes, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you.